Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this is the long-anticipated, long-awaited Summer 2018 anime watch list video that I promised some time ago. And we're a few weeks in now. I feel like I'm locked into everything that I wanted to watch. And, for those of you who are stalwarts on my channel, you may have realized that I'm not really doing much in the way of weekly episodic review coverage for this particular season. And in case you were wondering, hey John, are you still watching anime? Yes, I am very much still watching anime. In fact, this particular season, much like the previous, is kind of outlandish how many weekly series I'm trying to keep up with. I reached my all-time high in the previous spring 2018 season at 30 weekly series that I was trying to keep up with. And this is no different. It's just one shy. The summer 2018 season sees me watching 29 weekly series. Some of them are continuations from previous seasons, as per usual. That's kind of the same for every season. But as to why I'm not actually covering them in episodic reviews, frankly, I'm just tired. I got a lot that I have to deal with offline in my real life and everything. It's very hectic and time consuming and everything like that. And so I'm just barely fitting in all of the given episodes I have to watch each day. Some of them I have to carry over to other days where I don't have as many episodes and things like that. And, it gets daunting after a while because I'm doing this strictly as a passion, strictly as sort of like a hobby. It's not a lucrative thing. I don't make money off of these videos or anything like that. If it was something that I could actually earn a dime or two off of, maybe that would give me more incentive to be on daily or 3 times a week or whatever it is, like some of these other channels doing multiple videos a day and that kind of thing, because every single view goes toward money in their pocket, that kind of thing. But it's not the same for me. This is strictly what I'm passionate about, what I'm compelled to talk about. And, I have to feel that compelling sensation after I watch a given episode. Even with all of these, 29 series that I'm watching for this summer 2018 season, I am dialed into almost all of them. There's only 1 or 2 that are kind of give or take that I could still drop at some point. But most of them I am super dialed into. I am super enjoying. And I just realized that, after covering anime for so many years now, weekly and episodically, and then doing overview reviews after certain series and things like that, I just need a little me time. I need to dial it back a little bit and actually watch and enjoy these series of their own accord, not have to come on and poke and prod and pick apart what I've watched and try to translate what I was experiencing, thinking, or feeling while I was watching them. Which, it may not seem that way to you guys who click on the video and just listen to whoever it is waxing lyrical about the thing they love or the thing they hate, that kind of thing. But getting up that energy, trying to recapture the emotions of the moment and trying to, have this idea of what you want to say and everything like that, it is a little bit of work, to record, to then edit, to then upload and everything like that, with some technical quandaries that, reveal themselves that you won't know until you're trying to upload a video. Is it going to upload in HD? Is there going to be a problem? Am I going to have to re-upload it? If I'm recording and I stutter over a title, I'll have to edit that out. And it's so much work. And because it's, like a hobby, because it's a passion, I want to retain whatever excitement I have for doing it. So for this particular season, kind of what was loosely inspired from the previous season where, after the spring 2018 season wrapped, I had done a, like biggest disappointments video for, spring 2018. I then did a follow-up, my favorites and everything else for spring 2018 overview discussion video. And so I kind of feel like, at least for the foreseeable future, this is how I'm going to approach my anime coverage. I'm going to do a watch list when I'm locked in and I know what I'm going to be watching every week. And then I will probably do a follow-up when the season ends and talk about what I loved and what I didn't. What fell flat, what really resounded. And I may be given to doing certain series-specific reviews, overview reviews, discussions, when those series end. It remains to be seen. But in any case, with all of that said, that is why you're not seeing weekly, episodic coverage from me at this time. And you can take it or leave it, love or hate it, that kind of thing. But it is what it is. You know, whatever happens, happens, as Spike Spiegel once said. And that's what's happening now. So without further ado, with all of that said, let me get to why you're watching this video. And that is my Summer 2018 anime watch list. Now, as I have done in the past, I've bracketed this up to the days of the week, and we're going to be starting off, as I usually do, with Sundays, which I'm watching 6 shows on any given Sunday, beginning with Waka Okami Shogakusei, or The Young Innkeeper is a Grade Schooler. I've talked about this in some of my previous videos. It is a holdover from a previous season, and when it airs, when it actually gets subbed and gets released, I enjoy watching it. You know, as the title suggests, it's about a grade school girl who's, you know, sort of an innkeeper in training at an onsen, and there are ghosts about and things like that, and she's trying to sort of grow up, learn her way as a young girl, while also trying to learn her way as, you know, the potential innkeeper after her grandmother, you know, for this onsen that her grandmother runs and stuff like that. And it's really, you know, heartwarming and genial and everything like that. It has some quirky moments and elements to it with the ghosts. One of the ghosts is a boy who knew her grandmother when her grandmother was her age, and he died, fell off a roof, monkeying around on it. And so now he's kind of like a guidepost, a Jiminy Cricket to the main girl, and it's just really, you know, kooky and fun. Secondly, on Sundays, I'm watching Esobase, which is balls to the wall hilarious. Focuses on 3 main girls in school. They try to create what they call a pastimers club, for lack of wanting to get involved with any other extracurricular, you know, sort of club work outside of school. They just want to pass the time. And it's kind of created under false pretenses at first, because they, you know, one of the girls thinks the other, who is of like an English background, is going to be able to teach her English. Yet she was born in Japan. She just looks like a foreigner, so she's not going to learn anything from her. And it gets twisted and sadistic in ways where, while this triumvirate of girls are best of friends, for all intents and purposes, they still try to stick it to each other as often as they can. Like the previous episode, the most recent episode, as of the time of this recording, saw them sniffing each other's armpits as punishment if they lost at these various games they were having a go at playing, rather than, you know, because one of the girls doesn't want any of the others to have to feel subservient having to go out and buy them drinks or anything like that. So what else can we do to punish each other? And it's smell our armpits. You know, and then in the second half of the episode, they try to set up their single teacher who's been inside girls' schools, you know, ever since she was a young girl herself, you know, so she hasn't ever had an opportunity to meet any single guys. And she goes to these girls figuring, oh, they must know a thing or two, you know, if they're in the Pastimers Club. So, you know, there's the whole thing of them trying to give her a social media account and take a profile pic of her where she's given this little plastic boobie to hold, making kissy faces and embarrassing the hell out of her. It is hilarious. I highly recommend Esobase. Third on Sundays is Planet With, which was actually a recommend from one of you guys, one of my friends and viewers. I had initially passed over Planet With because it's listed as a mecha series, and I can really highly take or leave those. If you followed any of my coverage, you know, with Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, you've probably heard me say I'm really particular when it comes to mecha series and things like that. And but this series proved to be completely off the wall, bonkers, insane, and I love it. You know, it's kooky, it's funny. There's a giant purple cat dude who's a pervert who's sneaking glimpses at anime figure undies, panties, and everything like that. The main character is like the last surviving alien from a particular planet that was destroyed or something, a la Superman, you know. And it's off the wall, it's bonkers insane. There are UFOs that consist of giant, like, plush animals, a bear in the first episode, a pig in the second. And it's absolutely insane. It is kind of like Classicaloid, which was a series that was much beloved by me, and I covered episodically. But it's bonkers, and it's hilarious, and I love it. Fourth, coming up on Sundays, is the very enigmatic series, the mystery series Island. I have no idea what's going on in this show. Don't look to me for answers, because this guy's got no clue. But there's something about it. I'm transfixed by the oddity of it. I can't exactly. I have to assume it's kind of along the similar, reasoning as to why people like Twin Peaks, even though I've never seen that. There's an enigmatic quality to it. There are some weird characters in it, and what's the grand mystery? What's the scope of the story? A lot of that stuff is being hinted at, and they're dropping mythology and all these kinds of influences. Time travel maybe is involved, or psychoses is involved. But I love what drew me in was the Lush Island setting to start with. I loved the animation. The main dude, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, he kind of looks like Spike Spiegel a little bit to me with the hairstyle, even though it's not green, it's more sort of a dark blue. But it's just interesting. The characters are quirky, and I'm wondering what in the hell is going on with it. And as I say, the lush vistas are what drew me in, and now this overhanging enigmatic quandary of what in the hell's going on is keeping me watching. It's keeping me attuned to it. So 5th on Sundays is Hanebado, which is the badminton series. The first couple of episodes of which left a lot to be desired. The one of the two main characters, I haven't written any of their names down. I still haven't learned any of them. But the tall sort of Amazonian of the two main characters of this show was a real unlikable bitch for the first 2 episodes, for like all of the first episode, and then all but 3/4 of episode 2. And then toward the end of episode 2, she actually cracks a smile and comes back down to earth and becomes relatively likable. But then we were left with the mystery of what bug crawled up the butt of the other one, the little one who's like a savant at badminton and everything like that, and has a bad relationship with her mother who abandoned her and all this kind of stuff. And I'm curious to see how the characterization is going to play out. It's one of only 2 sports series that I'm actually watching this season. Not that big into sports anime to begin with, but I like enough of what's going on in it to want to watch and keep watching it. So it's enjoyable now, especially that the bigger of the 2 main characters is not so much a bitch anymore. It's actually watchable. And then finishing out Sundays is, of course, Season 3 of Shingeki no Kyojin, Attack on Titan, which I heavily debated whether or not I was going to cover in reviews, but I think, if I discuss it at all, it'll probably be as an overview review at the end of it, just because there's so much I don't know, and there's so many other people do know who have read the source material and everything like that. And I just feel like we're only getting so far, at least with the first episode of Season 3 thus far. We've only gotten inches into it, and there's still so much mystery overhanging and so little answers that what's really the point of coming on and talking about it? Waxing speculative about things that I'm out of my element on. I don't know what exactly is going on. So I want to get a little more into it before I even consider talking about it. But in any case, I love Attack on Titan, and I love that it's back. So that's what finishes us out for Sundays. To go over them again, as a brief little recap, of course, The Young Innkeeper is a grade schooler, Asobi Asobase, Planet with Island Hanebado, and Shingeki no Kyojin Season 3. That is what I'm watching on Sundays. So moving us on now to Mondays, I'm watching 4 series on Mondays. The first of which is Agu Tensei Ningyo, which is a really weird series. The first episode was really captivating. The entire premise of which is, if anyone that you have ever encountered in life has ever been called a genius, they are very specially skilled at, it could be anything. It could be, as it is depicted in the first episode, ballet dancing. It could be writing. It could be, being a musician, operating an instrument, whatever it is, the sciences, all this kind of stuff. Chances are they have little, what are known as agu, woven into their skin by these otherworldly supernatural beings called the Tailors. And what these agu are basically the disembodied souls of artisans of old who are masters of their craft. And they're kind of being held captive, held as slaves within people in the modern era who want to excel at a given, art or craft. By having them woven into their bodies, they somehow sap the energy and the talents out of these agu. And the main character, she finds out her best friend, they're both aspiring ballet dancers, but her best friend is like, a prima ballerina. And it turns out, this old man and his grandson, she just happens upon them and happens upon this book they wrote about the Agu, revealing what, is going on with that. She just happens to find out her best friend actually has 3 of these little beings, these little souls enslaved in her body. And it's just really intriguing premise. I watched the 2nd episode. I won't say anything about that in this video, except to say I did see some people already bashing it for some of the choices the main character makes in the 2nd episode, but I was still on board with it. I'm like, I probably would have made the same decisions she made if I were in her position, how it pertains to her best friend and how she approaches her best friend and things like that. That's all I'll say. But I find it to be a really captivating, intriguing premise and idea. The animation seems a little bit basic, but if it's got the story, and so far it does, what more can you ask? So that's the first thing I'm watching on Mondays. I am still continuing to watch on Mondays Kakuryo no Yarumishi. This is yet again another holdover from a previous season. Still thoroughly enjoying it. I've spoken about it before, so I won't waste too much time talking about it, recapping what it's about. If you're aware of it, you're already watching it, you already know how good or bad it is, Apart from that, 3rd on Mondays, I'm watching Phantom in the Twilight, a brand new summer 2018 series. I'm only a couple of episodes in. I haven't watched the latest episode as of the time this recording. Just came out today. It's one of the 2 remaining for the day that I have to get to as of the time of this recording. But I did not expect to actually like it as much as I do. It's got vampires and werewolves. It's very seemingly on the surface horror themed, but it's kind of anything but, really. It's kooky, it's funny, the characters have a lot of personality, and it's very approachable. The main character and her friend, they've moved to like England or whatever from Japan, whatever it is, and she's really excited about it. It's her grandmother's old stomping grounds, and suddenly these strange forces start, impacting her life. They kidnap her friend and hold her hostage, and they want to kill her because of her lineage to her grandmother, who actually is the creator of this foundation that took in tow these supernatural creatures called shadows in this series, the werewolf and the vampire and things like that. And it's kooky and funny, and I really enjoyed the first couple episodes of it thus far. The sort of main vampire character, in fact, Vlad, is actually all kinds of badass. He kicks total ass. So I dig it. I didn't expect to, but I am thoroughly digging it. And then finishing us out, 4th for Mondays, is Kyoto Teramachi Sanjo Holmes, or Senjo no Holmes, or more easy to pronounce, Holmes of Kyoto. And for anyone who has followed me for any amount of time, you know that I am a Sherlockian, tried and true. I've read the entirety of the Sherlock Holmes canon a few times over. Some of the stories I'd gone back to, half a dozen times and such like that. Watched a lot of the Sherlock Holmes movies and things like that. And this, while this isn't a direct adaptation of Sherlock Holmes, it's very much heavily inspired in its main character, the air quotes Holmes character, who runs like an antique curio shop, and it's all about solving mysteries. And yet again, you have a young girl who's sort of feeling lost in the world, wants to get out of town, go back to her home because she's like a fish out of water. And when she encounters this Holmes character, he gives her a job in the shop as an assistant and things like that, because she's empathetic. She can sort of get a sense of things, and it'll aid him, where he's kind of got that logical procedural faculty that the real, story Sherlock Holmes has. That's kind of why this character has that as a nickname, because they're going to be solving mysteries and such. And I dig it. I love that aspect of it. So once again, to recap for Mondays, it's Agu Tensei Ningyo, Kakuryo no Yarumishi, Phantom in the Twilight, and Kyoto Teramachi Sanju no Holmes, or Holmes of Kyoto. So that brings us to Tuesdays, one of only 2 days of the week where I only have 2 shows that I'm watching. And on Tuesdays, it's the ever-continuing Black Clover. I never would have guessed that I would still be watching this show. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I've been enjoying it for a long time now. I did start out covering it. I think I dropped off about episode 5 or 6, when the series began. Because it just felt like, they were only going to get so far episode to episode. But I've been digging it for what it is. And also on Tuesdays is Engel Moi, Genko Kasenki, which I did a first impressions video on. I still think it kicks all kinds of ass. I'm still totally enraptured and captivated by it. And what more can you say? So that's Tuesdays. Black Clover, Engel Moi, Genko Kasenki. And bringing us to Wednesdays now. Wednesday is the other day of the week that I'm watching 2 episodes, but one of them is very much, is it ever going to be out again? Is it ever coming out again? The first one is Steins Gate Zero, which is killing it. I love every dripping minute of Steins Gate Zero. It's what I'm all about on Wednesdays. But I also have had listed for like the past season, and a half, Xianpin Jetting or Creature Family Days. And I don't know where this damn series is. I don't, the episodes just stopped. They stopped coming out. They stopped coming out sub. They weren't even coming out the same day of the week, every week. I didn't know when to expect it. So technically speaking, Wednesday I'm only actually watching one show. Wednesday's my catch-up day. If I miss any of the stuff the previous days of the week, were carried over from the previous week, Wednesday's the day I make it all up, because I'm only watching Steins Gate Zero primarily. And when Creature Family Days comes out, I'll watch it, but I don't know, I still have it on my list because as far as I know, it's not done. It hasn't finished. If it has, I haven't seen any more episodes actually come out, so whatever. But that'll bring us on to Thursdays, where I'm watching 4 series on Thursdays, beginning with the off-the-wall Backstreet Girls Goku Dolls, which in a nutshell consists, here's the premise in a nutshell, 3 Yakuza guys are punished by their boss to undergo a sexual reassignment surgery and become pop idols, female pop idols, and all of the insanity that ensues as a result of this. And I'll leave it there. Not much more needs to be said. It is pretty hilarious. And then secondarily on Thursdays is How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, which is one of only a couple, I think, MMORPG aesthetic kind of series. You think of like Konosuba, stuff like that, Sword Art Online, although more so Konosuba because this is more wacky and funny and things like that. The sort of Demon Lord, the titular character, he's a guy from like our universe. He is somehow, air quotes, summoned into this game universe, where he's got these 2 girls. They were trying to summon and enslave him. Because one of the girls has like a demon soul inside her, kind of a la Raven from the Teen Titans, and she's afraid of it and she wants to quell it because it might unleash holy hell on the world, and so they're summoning a demon lord, which ends up backfiring on them because they end up wearing the thing around the neck that is like the harness that enslaves them, but then they find out he's a decent guy. He's kind of a shut-in from our world, so he kind of puts on the bravado. He's playing a character as this demon lord. He's very overpowered, but so far it's been advantageous to him, not in an overpowered like framework, like nonsensically. It's been really interesting because he's kind of become friends with these girls. He's made them the promise that he's going to help free them, and rather than keep them as slaves and everything like that. And he just battled in the latest episode this whole horde of creatures who were coming in, probably seeking the girl with the demon soul inside her and everything like that. But it has that, sort of dot hack, SAO, Konosuba, MMORPG vibe, and that's another genre I can give or take whether I'm going to like it or not. But it's a genre I do gravitate toward because of like things like Final Fantasy, which I grew up with, and Final Fantasy VII being my chief inspiration for why I'm a otaku, why I'm an anime fan to begin with. So it delivers on all of that. And then following on from there, third on Thursdays is She Say No Subaru, which is the other MMORPG sort of aesthetic series, much more falling on the SAO side of things as far as the drama. And basically, this group of characters, they were Team Subaru in this MMORPG, and one of their friends in a battle, like a big boss battle, some kind of bug or effect happens where one of their friends, she has like an embolism pop in her brain or something like that when they're all children, and she dies in the real world. And it's so many years later, fast forward so many years later, after most of this group have gone their separate ways. There was a falling out between two of them because one of them blamed the other for the death of the girl because of the failure to beat the boss that they were fighting at the time. And so now it's many years later, and the main cat is called back into the game by some of his friends, and he just happens to encounter on a quest the disembodied sort of digital spirit of his old friend who died. And now we have some of the characters of old, of this Subaru team of old, becoming aware of this, and it's starting to make the rounds on the servers to do with the game. Hey, what in the hell's going on with this girl who died? How is she back? You know, she's so powerful in the game and everything like that. It's really captivating. It's really intriguing. And then finishing us out for Thursdays is Banana Fish, which I don't really know what to say about. It's really kind of intense, really along, sort of Black Lagoon intensity as far as just really down and dirty aspects to the story, child molestation and criminal syndicates and narcotics and this crazy mind-bending narcotic that has twisted the mind of one of the main characters, and it's crazy. I don't know where it's going exactly, but it is interesting. It is captivating, and that's what rounds us out for Thursdays. Once again, that's Backstreet Girls, Goku Dolls, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, She Say No Subaru, and Banana Fish. Bringing us to Fridays, the day I'm watching the most episodes of the week, at 7. And beginning us off is Setsuriko no Tenshi, or Angels of Death, the ED for which I have been obsessed with. I cannot stop listening to the ending song for this series. Again, it's another captivating premise. This girl, I think her name is Rachel, she wakes up. She was supposed to be taken to a hospital. She wakes up in this like building that is on lockdown, and there are all these different floors, and there's like a crazy psycho murderer on each of the given floors. And it's all about her teaming up with Zach, this scythe-wielding lunatic, who promises, per her request, that if they get out of there, he will kill her because she wants to die because she lost her parents, you know, that kind of thing. It's crazy, it's insane, and I'm enjoying every drip and minute of it. Secondarily, on Fridays is Hadokana Receive, which is the other sports series I'm watching for the summer 2018 season, all about beach volleyball. Once again, much like Island, I really loved the tropical setting, the vistas, the oceanside vistas and everything like that. You know, it doesn't hurt it that a lot of the buxom girls are walking around in bikinis and tossing the ball around. You know, that too. So far, I'm enjoying it. Third on Fridays is Chio-chan no Sugu Kuro, which is balls to the wall hilarious. This series is absolutely epically hilarious. The main titular character, Chio, she is a gamer girl. You know, she faces going to school every day certain challenges, certain things get in her way, obstacles you might say, and so she starts to apply video game logic to to some of these scenarios to get out of them as best she can. In the second episode, I think it is, she basically manhandles a Yakuza who's like, twice her size stacked one on top of the other, and knocks over his motorcycle and completely adapts herself to this persona of this killer, I think they call her like Killer Butterfly or something. Like, oh, she's a schoolgirl in disguise, but she's really a lethal psycho killer, even worse than the worst Yakuza boss, And, but it's insane. It's insane, and I'm dying laughing every single episode so far. Coming in fourth on Fridays is Akun to Kanojo, which is a carryover. It's a 4-minute short subject series that carries over from the previous season. And I didn't expect to be watching it and still watching it. But, for the short 3 or 4 minute length of each episode, not much really happens, but it always gets a chuckle out of me. So I think it's hilarious that the boyfriend always calls the girlfriend Uggo. Hey, get out of here, Uggo. I don't know why. It's sadistic, but it's funny. Fifth on Fridays is Sunohara no Karinen-san, or Miss Caretaker of Sunohara. And this show is kind of a kooky, funny coming-of-age story, I guess you could say. This young cat, he's oft mistaken for looking like a girl, and he becomes, part of this all-female dormitory. The caretaker is this very buxom blonde who is very sort of hands-on with him, always sort of pushing him to the edge of puberty related reactions and things, and a lot of it is just sort of, I'm sure it's every male's fantasy, like, how come I didn't have that? How come I didn't have a teacher like that when I was growing up? How come I didn't have a babysitter like that, or a caretaker? But it has been funny, and that's really what stands to reason as to why I'm watching it. And that's all I can say about it. Coming in at number 6 on Fridays is one of the ones that I'm not sure yet whether or not I'm going to stick with it. I'm 2 episodes in. The first episode was mostly enjoyable, and I was laughing my ass off for the most part. But then they started getting into like this forced alcohol drinking and stuff, and that's not my taste. I will stop watching something if there's an overabundance of that. And but I gave the second episode a shot in spite of that, and while there was talk of that, there wasn't really any depictions of that, so I'm like, okay, well, I'll reserve judgment. But in any case, I'm talking about the series Grand Blue. Now, the reason I wanted to watch it to begin with, akin to Island and akin to the beach volleyball Haruka Receive series, is again the lush tropical environments. I love the look of it all. It's very beautiful to look at. And in this case, I had a sort of near miss quotient with being an aquatic diver myself as part of my dad's company back when he and my mom were still alive, which would have seen us diving in the Gulf of Mexico and things like that, and I just didn't take to it. But I've always been captivated by the ocean and the mysteries undersea and sea life and things like that. And thus far, we haven't gotten into a whole hell of a lot of that for a series that's supposed to revolve entirely around that. If they can pick it up with that, we can get underwater and we can see these underwater vistas and creatures and things, the adventure of that, I will definitely be sticking with this series. But it remains to be seen. I'm giving it the 3-episode rule to see. As I say, I'm only 2 episodes in. And then finishing us out on Fridays is Happy Sugar Life, which I believe is the other summer 2018 series I did a first impressions video on. And let's just say it's crazy. Go watch that video. Go watch the video I'm talking about, the first episode, if you're curious and you haven't checked it out at all yet. It continues to be pretty madcap and psychological and whatever like that in episode 2 and beyond. So I'm enjoying that. So to recap once again, Fridays, that's Satoriko no Tenshi, or Angels of Death, Haruka Receive, Chiyo-chan no Sugukuro, Akun to Kanojo, the 3-minute, 4-minute subject, Miss Caretaker of Sunoharuso, Grand Blue, and Happy Sugar Life. And that brings us to the final day of the week that I'll be talking about in this video, Saturday, at 4 episodes each Saturday. Beginning us off with Hararaku Saibo, or Cells at Work, which the first episode was a complete and utter delight. It reminded me a lot in the pacing and the humor, the comedy, something very much akin to One Punch Man. And each episode thus far, I think we're up to episode 3 by now as of the time of this recording, I've just been enjoying it. It's a series you can watch and actually learn something about, human biology, what makes the body work and everything like that. Unfortunately, with my brain, with my memory, I'm going to have a hard time retaining a lot of that knowledge. But it makes for an interesting experience, actually being able to learn something kind of akin to Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma, where you're learning about food and ingredients and food preparation. This is all about biology and how the body works, and it's hilarious. All of the diseases are these monsters. You have the white blood cell, the red blood cell, the adorable little platelets and everything like that. And it's hysterical. It's awesome. Coming in second on Saturdays, I've talked about this series before in previous videos, but I'm watching the still airing Persona 5, the animation, which is a carryover from the previous season. I absolutely love it. I never played any of the Persona games, and I have heard some people issuing qualms, I've talked about this previously, that it's a completely, sort of deflating experience just watching the anime, as opposed to playing one of the game versions where where you're interactive and you're part of the choices that are being made. You're part of the story, and there's so much more going on in a game because you devote so much more. You're capable of devoting so much more time to it, and so they've kind of bashed the anime. But as somebody who's never had any hands-on playing the games or anything, I'm really thoroughly enjoying the anime. I love the animation. I love the characters. I love the sort of, like 1970s sitcom aesthetic of presenting a problem and being rid of the problem by the end of the 30 minutes, or, in this case, 24. Coming in next on Saturdays, number 3 is High Score Girl, which is another hysterically funny series, but what it really has going for it as an old-time gamer is all of the classic games that they have licensed to depict in the show. They actually show legit game footage of a lot of these old classic, like Sega games and things like that, and from like Final Fight to Street Fighter 2, Ghosts and Goblins and stuff like that. And basically the titular High Score Girl is mostly silent. She doesn't really speak. She sort of grunts and smacks the main, the main boy character, which at the start, they have a very adversarial relationship. He's a gamer as well, and, he kind of takes it as a personal slight when they end up playing each other against each other in, a game of Street Fighter 2, and, like, he doesn't like her, but then, like, they're starting to grow on each other, and they're starting to warm to each other, and, like, she's realizing he's as much of a gamer and passionate about games as she is, so she's kind of glomming onto him a little bit more here and there, while they're still keeping up the very tsundere, aesthetic between them. I think it's cute and I think it's funny, and I love the callbacks to all the classic games. And then finally, to finish us all out for this video, is the continuing Gegege no Kitaro, which I just love, and I've talked about before in previous videos. If you have any familiarity with it, you'll know why I enjoy watching it. If not, I'm not going to recap it here. I highly recommend you go check it out. Again, it's another series about yokai and stuff like that. The titular Kitaro battles evil yokai and, such like that. It's really endearing and has a lot of kooky, fun characters. And so, to recap, once more, Saturdays, with the 4 episodes I'm watching on Saturdays, Hadoraku, Saibo, or Cells at Work, Persona 5 the Animation, High Score Girl, and Gegege no Kitaro. And that, as they say, is that. That's the 29 in total weekly series that I'm watching, trying my damnedest to keep up with, and it's just a good thing there aren't any live action series that are coinciding with this, as have happened in previous seasons, because then I'd have that to deal with too. So yeah, as I say, as you are no doubt aware of by now, I am not doing episodic coverage this season. Will I ever do it again? It remains to be seen, but at least for now I'm going to be doing this, watch list and then follow-up videos. I may do specific series, in overview reviews after the fact, but I'm just kind of wanting to take a step back and watch and enjoy these series for a change, rather than, enjoying them, but constantly thinking about, oh, I have to mention this, and I have to mention that, and I have to mention this, and what I was thinking and what I was feeling all the time, and kudos to those of you out there who do that, my fellow video makers, anime fans, and things of that sort. But, I know most of you guys are making buck off what you do, so it is a job, it is a business, it's your bread and butter and everything. For me, it's not. It's always been a passion, it's always been, like a hobby, that kind of thing. And so, I gotta do it the way I see fit, and that's how I see it. So, otherwise, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below about any of these series. If you're watching them, love them, hate them, whatever like that. If you've dropped them, if you're sticking with them. Again, you can feel free to talk about stuff that I haven't mentioned, watching. But chances are I'm probably not really going to be open to anything new apart from all of this, because this is plenty right here. And so yeah, with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the insights I've shared as to what I'm watching for the summer 2018 season. Rest assured, Johnny Blues is watching anime, tons of it, just not talking about it as readily. Although it should be a footnote, let me put a little asterisk there and say, for those of you who have been following me, friended to me over on my personal Facebook account, you may know that I do post over there relatively often about these anime series that I'm watching, because I can, sort of whittle it all down to a very concise little paragraph or two, which I don't feel is necessarily worth, doing a whole video about. So if you do want to hear me talking about stuff, you don't want to wait for the inevitable, summer 2018 favorites, what I loved, what I was disappointed with, follow-up video when the season is done. If you want to still hear me talking about Anime Weekly, send me a friend request over there, and you'll be in on the game. So otherwise, it'll be pretty much it for me on this. If this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.